Get full access to over 10,000 episodes with your paid subscription. MyOutdoorTV. Start your free trial today.
Few types of hunting offer as much excitement and will challenge a hunter's skills as much as driven hunting. When the game is driven towards the hunter, he must be able to instantly determine the animal's gender, age group, and sometimes even the trophy size in order only to kill game in accordance with the estate management's principles and the annual harvesting plans. Determining the gender of deer is not difficult, but in order to be successful at driven hunts, it is a great advantage to have an intimate knowledge of the different species' habits and general way of living. For instance, red deer often are very good at changing their direction of flight in order to confuse the pursuing dogs. Notice how these red stags turn sharply left and hereby lure the dog following them. By knowing the habits of the different species, you will be better able to instantly assess where and when the best and safest chance of a shot can be expected to arise as the game passes your post. Although you see game which is not to be harvested, it is still a good thing to try and assess where on the route there is something solid to catch the bullet behind the animals, and whether they are likely to stop and offer the chance of a safer shot. Like red deer, the fallow deer are often appearing in herds and will instinctively lump together when the leading hind or doe will stop and check the surroundings for dangers. Due to the lumping, you can often not make an ethical shot at the animals, but have to make a more difficult shot while they are moving. One of the many exciting aspects of driven hunting is that during a day, you will often see far more game, and depending on the estate, normally more species than you will by traditional stalking, for instance. After a long wait, one can experience a lot of action arising the next moment, and accordingly the hunter must constantly be ready, alert, and focus on the surroundings. When the game appears and is identified, there will normally be very little time to pick out the right animal and make a safe shot. Any just moderately passionate hunter will inevitably experience an increased rate of pulse and level of adrenaline in the blood. When managing the game in a given area, driven hunting is a practical method to regulate the size and composition of the population. By placing the hunters at strategically chosen places in the terrain, you can expect to come into contact with a far larger part of the game population than by other types of hunting. Hunting by waiting for the animals to appear will normally result in far too few animals harvested in order to fulfill the management plan. Although in some forested areas it is theoretically possible to harvest all animals by stalking, this will normally cause so much disturbance that the game is far more affected by this than by a few driven hunts annually. However, driven hunting is quite demanding of both the organizers and the participating hunters. The organizers must have an intimate knowledge of the terrain in order to place the hunters at the right spots where the game will pass at a suitable distance and where it is possible to make a safe shot by having something behind the animals that will catch the bullet. The hunters must not only be good shots, but also be capable of instantly choosing the proper animals that are to be harvested. As the animals often must be shot while running, the hunters must ensure not only the proper lead when shooting, but also a proper backstop to catch the bullet, in addition of making sure that no other animal will be hit in case of a miss or a bullet passing through another animal. Accordingly, driven hunting offers challenges found in few other types of hunting. Man has been a hunter since very early in his history of evolution, beginning around 2 million years ago. Early hunters quickly found out that instead of individual hunting, it was far more effective to let some hunters drive the animals towards other hunters, and hereby increase their chances of making a kill. Accordingly, driven hunting is one of the earliest organized types of hunting that we know. In the Middle Ages, hunting was restricted for the first time and increasingly became reserved for the elite of society, the nobility and the aristocracy. Due to its social aspects, driven hunting became the preferred type of hunting for parties and has been so ever since. Gradually, the driven hunts developed into enormous events with hundreds or sometimes thousands of beaters driving the game towards the hunters, enabling them to shoot large numbers of animals. Until the latter part of the 19th century, there were few ethical considerations regarding the methods of hunting, and any method making it easier to kill the game was employed. In this way, a few extra privileged hunters could make enormous bags. The best and also worst example is probably the two Saxon electors, Johann George I, who lived from 1585 to 1656, and his son, Johann George II, who lived from 1613 to 1680. Both these princes were passionate hunters and the two persons known who killed most large game in Europe on their countless driven hunts. According to their meticulously kept records, the father killed more than 116,000 mammals. Of these, more than 35,000 were red deer and almost 32,000 were wild boars. Johann George II did not kill quite as much as his father's total, ending up with almost 110,000 heads of mammals. A typical example is Prince Regent Luitpold of Bavaria, who lived from 1821 to 1912. During driven hunts on his own estate and lasting a week every November, he and his sons would kill around 600 wild boars. Driven hunting is the most effective kind of hunting. For instance, the North American Indians rationalized their hunting by driving herds of bison into an abyss. Later, the white man followed suit with his much more efficient firearms and almost eradicated the species, not least by driven hunting. Modern hunters have imposed strict ethical standards of hunting, including both the shooting and selection of game animals. Today, driven hunting is arranged as part of a sustainable use of a game population, and the managers have carefully considered the best distribution of species, gender, and age of the game harvested. We're at the Swedish estate of Trolla Ljungby, where Linus Larsson has been game manager for a number of years. He has been responsible for developing the game population as well as the way the hunts are organized. It takes a lot of meticulous preparation to organize a driven hunt. When the day arrives, the hunting party normally meets early for a cup of coffee before the official part of the program begins. For safety reasons, as well as to ensure that the hunters only shoot game in accordance with the management plans, they are carefully informed about these before leaving for their posts. As opposed to a traditional driven hunt with up to 5 or 6 smaller drives, Linus has good experiences with a modified type of moving the game at a lesser speed. Here, the beaters will not walk in a line through the terrain, but move around more individually. The hunters are then placed not in a line, but at different strategically chosen places, and will normally only have 1 or 2 drives a day. The advantage of this type of moving the game is that the animals are stressed much less, and accordingly will pass the hunters at a much lower speed. The instructions have been given, and the entire event begins with driving the hunters to their respective posts, so they are ready at dawn. One of the hunters today is Magnus Samuelsson, former world champion of the competition, The World's Strongest Man. He has grown up with hunting and has been a hunter since he was a teenager. Magnus has looked forward to this day at Trolla Ljungby estate, not least because he can expect to see an extraordinary large number of game species, from fox to roe deer, to fallow and red deer, to mouflon, wild boar, and even moose. After half an hour, 3 wild boars suddenly appears. This is the moment of truth for Magnus. Way to go. This can't be done any better. The wild boar never heard the report of the rifle.
Så vi fick precis ut 3 grisar. Jag valde att skjuta på den sista som föll. Allt gick bra. Det blir lite svårt med bakgrunden om jag hade fortsatt, så jag är helt nöjd med det jag gjorde. Ett väldigt fint pass. Vi har ett par vägar som är uppenbart lämpliga för grisar. Så vi ser med spänning framåt resten av drevet.
Magnus's neighbor is Johnny Goodhart, who has come over from England to experience driven hunting in Sweden. It is not allowed to shoot the sows, and the same goes for any wild boar over 70 kilograms on the hoof, apart from Kyler's. Accordingly, one has to be quite certain before letting the bullet fly. And is this a Kyler? Just to be sure, Johnny keeps the red dot in the aim point sight at the Kyler for a moment longer, until he's sure it's dead.
And suddenly, out of nowhere, came this pig on its own. First time I've used the aim point. So, it seems to work. Don't know, 60. Don't know, 60.
At Magnus's post, a single boar also appears. Old males often come alone, but it might also be a sow which is being separated from her piglets by meeting one of the beaters. Although Magnus has plenty of time to study the animal, he is in doubt of its gender due to the distance and decides to take it easy and just enjoy the sight of the impressive animal until he is convinced that it is a Kyler. Often the hardest part of driven hunting is not to shoot. The decision must often be taken in a split second, and here it is wise to remember the basic rule of not shooting when in doubt. You should never regret a shot not fired. Maybe it was a good thing that Magnus did not shoot earlier, because now a sounder of young boars, so-called Frischlinge and Überläufers, are coming. Magnus is ready, but unfortunately the wild boars are not approaching. Instead, they continue their course past his neighbor.
Good of him. Ja, då var första drevet slut här på Trolla Ljungby. Vi har haft riktigt fint. Jag tycker vi sköt ett vildsvin. Hade möjligheten att se flera stycken. Fick en sugga som kom upp bra nära oss också. Så en jättefin upplevelse, och nu ser vi fram emot andra drevet.
How big is it?
Congratulations,
Thank you very much.
By my side.
Right, thanks.
What you say in England?
Well done.
Well done. Well shot. I saw that he was coming. Nice Kyler. Unfortunately, he has broken his teeth.
Well, there you go.
He fell directly?
Yeah.
Nice.
The second one was a bucker.
Yeah. It was too far for me to see.
We could have shot
it. It was a female.
But it was a female. It was nice and round.
I thought that one was a female when I saw him, because it's very long. I was sitting up on the top of the ridge.
Okay.
So I have about 200-300 meters, and it was raining. I guess look, big one. And then,
this was definitely a Kyler.
Yeah, nice.
The Kyler that Johnny dropped on the spot has quite a large body. Although there are 2 hunters dragging it up to the road, they still have to work quite hard.
Well, Paul, as you suspected, it was a Kyler, but unfortunately it's got broken teeth on both sides.
No animal is more Swedish than the elk, and Torbjörn Samuelsson, who is brother of Magnus, is lucky enough to enjoy the sight of an elk cow, which in a characteristic manner cautiously passes his post.
En älgkrigare gick förbi här nere. Precis, så vi får djur i pass, men det är inte skjutbara djur än så länge.
Shortly after, Torbjörn spots movement between the trees and gets ready if it this time is an animal that he can harvest. It turns out to be a good kyler, and it even comes at a quiet trot. Well done. Torbjörn kept calm and dropped the kyler in its tracks.
So we've just, we're in Trollelundby in Sweden, and we're situated between a thicket in front and a thicket behind. We've just had some dogs, and we've just had this is the second drive. The first drive we shot a big kyler, but unfortunately both his lower teeth are broken. So, not by the shot, they were broken before we shot it. So today we can shoot roe calves, fallow calves, mouflon lambs, red calves, red spikers as long as the spike's not above the ear, wild boar up to 70 kilos, and then the big kylers. And it's really nice here because we're not on a high seat, so we're in the forest, and there's plenty of boar activity all around us. So the beaters are going to come through this way, and then hopefully the boar will come back in the wind this way. It's now 11:30, and we've just started the second drive, and we're hopeful that we'll find a few boar here as well. It'll be great.
The good start with a single kyler has whetted Johnny's appetite, but when a sounder of boars with both Frischling and Überläufers appears, the shots are much more difficult.
It was tough to shoot in these trees here to find the gaps, and the gap was here. So we'd already planned where we should shoot it, which was just in this gap. And anyway, there it lies, so we're quite lucky we've got another Frischling today. Maybe, I don't know, 40 meters, not very far. But yeah, it's good, we like that.
You can hardly avoid being preoccupied with the diversity of nature and the sometimes quite long waits between the opportunities to shoot. But one must constantly be ready, because you really need to swing the Helix rifle if you want to be successful in the noble art of shooting a fox running at full speed. The fulcrum of a hunting party is the social aspects of the hunt. After having stood silent for several hours at their post and having had many experiences with many categories of game, most hunters have a deep desire to tell other hunters about them. The fact that the estate's dining hall is nice and warm and the food lovely doesn't seem to lessen the need of chatting. In case someone does not have much to tell, he can always find inspiration for further discussions from the many nice trophies from this estate which adorn the dining hall. With a vivid memory of many great and splendid hunting experiences, we now leave Trollelundby and continue towards further adventures. There is, however, no doubt that we will return to the beautiful Swedish landscapes and to Trollelundby, where Linus Larsson has arranged a hunt of an outstanding high quality, which we are very grateful for being allowed to both watch and participate in. The next area where we are witnessing the noble art of driven hunting is the terrains around Schloss Berleburg in Germany. The proprietor, Prince Richard zu Wittgenstein Berleburg, has through more than half a century carefully managed his forest terrains and hereby created ideal habitats for the different species of game here. The management is based upon a strictly scientific and selective harvest, and the results has been one of the best and most healthy game populations in Europe. Danish Dan Salstrup is a member of a hunting party here at Berleburg. The hunters are strategically placed in the terrain, while the beaters calmly pass through it from several sides. As the game hereby will move without being seriously frightened, there are better opportunities to make a correct and selective harvest of animals.
Så går det perfekt. Fik vi skudt et rålam. Jeg er næsten lige kommet på post her for 10 minutter siden. Kommer lige så stille ind bagfra og er vel inde på 80 meter, 70 meter, der vi skyder det, og det ligger dernede, så perfekt.
The way of moving the game gives the hunters ample opportunities to watch the game and enjoy the surroundings. But nevertheless, must the hunters constantly be aware of any game approaching them. Danish Jens Kjær Knudsen can hear a sounder of wild boars approaching. Surprisingly, the first boar decides to wallow in the mud right in front of him. This makes the sounder bundle together for a while so he cannot shoot. Will he have a chance while they run up the slope behind him? As Jens could see that the first Überläufer dropped on the spot, he shoots again, but not with quite the same effect. However, the Überläufer is so hard hit that its brain shortly after receives no blood, and the animal drops dead.
That was a very nice situation. We suddenly had a group of wild boar coming up, down from the valley, and suddenly on 20 meters they come up, but I couldn't shoot. They were too close to each other. They went through the water, and we have to stand very, very quiet behind this tree. And I could get them to shoot three of the young ones here when they come after behind this tree up here. Very nice situation.
If the hunter keeps covered or is standing absolutely still, the game will often not spot him. Accordingly, Jens takes his time to place the bullet so the doe drops in his tracks. The echo of the shot has barely died out before one of Berleburg's many majestic red stags comes trotting along. It is always a great pleasure to see the stags at close range, even though the stags are all harvested by stalking in order to ensure a correct management of the population. On a driven hunt, the situation can change from one second to the other. This single red deer hind dropped for a well-placed Hornady GMX bullet from Jens's rifle in caliber 300 Winchester Magnum. But when a fox the next moment comes the opposite way, it turns out to prove that trees do not grow into the sky. The fox gets over the crest unscathed. However, Jens is still in high spirits. If you have never missed, you are not very experienced at hunting running game. At Dan Salstrup's post, a herd of red deer passes at full speed. Only calves may be shot in this drive, and the dog is so close to the herd that it not only keeps the animals at top speed, but also makes the animals keep close together. Accordingly, Dan chooses not to fire. When the dog divides the herd, some of the animals stop, but unfortunately they lump up. Dan does not have a sporting chance to shoot, but was still enriched with a great experience. The timing is often crucial on a driven hunt. Quite correctly, the red deer calf is taken first here before the hunter swings further forward and shoots the hind too. In slow motion, it is evident how the calf drops on the spot and how the hind is hit in the front of the shoulder while in the middle of a jump. This is very good shooting. By noon, the hunters are gathering around the hunting lodge to have lunch. Everyone has seen several heads of game, and most of the hunters have also added to the parade, which will be made after the hunt. We're in December, and this season's harvest of red stags is put on display. At Belaborg, trophy red stags are 12 years or more before they are shot, and the careful selection through many years and the game management's high-quality demands are very evident. After lunch, the hunters are placed on new posts, and now with their stomach full of lovely goulash soup. When hunting in cold weather, it is obviously very important to be properly dressed. Being cold will make you slower, and your shooting will suffer. The art of shooting game under a driven hunt often consists of not shooting when the game is running full speed, but to wait and take advantage of the situation in the moment when a good chance arises. Driven hunting is a concept which includes a number of different ways of making the animals pass by the hunters, with or without the use of dogs. If the beaters, like here, are not in a line but coming from different directions, it is often called moving game, where the purpose is to spread the animals and make them walk quietly past the hunters, making it easier to identify and shoot the proper animals. A red deer hind is passing Jens Kjær's post, but without giving him a sporting chance to shoot. Shortly after, another hind appears from a different direction, and Jens wisely awaits the precisely right moment to shoot. The hind is showing signs of being hit in the heart, and Jens can clearly see the entrance wound. Accordingly, he knows that the hind will drop dead in a few seconds when no blood and thereby oxygen will reach the animal's brain. Jens Kjær here gets a chance to shoot a wild boar. Unfortunately, he misjudged the animal's speed and shoots behind it. Due to the many trees, he does not get the right lead in the second shot either, and accordingly, Jens chooses not to make more shots. Belaborg has a good population of mouflons, which is the only wild sheep species in Europe. The last of natural populations were found on Corsica and Sardinia, but in the late 19th century the species was released a number of places all over Europe. Two rams passed Dan Samuelsson at a short distance, but as it is a selective hunt and the animals are at top speed, Dan refrains from shooting. The powerful and compact animals are built to run in mountainous terrain and are very fast. The species thrive here due to the much greater access of food compared to what their forefathers could find in the mountains of the Mediterranean islands. A moment later, an even better chance arises. The bullet is placed a little low, and Dan quickly follows up with yet another lethal shot before the ram drops dead behind the small trees.
Yes! Så fik vi mouflon på Perleburg. Perfekt. Kom ind mellem træerne hernede. Ud på hvad? 40 meter. Og lige op forbi os. Så super oplevelse. Så er dagen reddet. Perfekt.
Dan Samuelsson is not only enriched with his first mouflon ram, but further rewarded on this post. Shortly after, 3 red stags appear, and they demonstrate how effectively they are capable of fooling the driving dog into believing that they ran down into the valley. Stags are not shot on driven hunts at Belaborg, but the mere sight of the magnificent animals is nevertheless a bonus, especially when they are so close and even allow themselves to stop and be admired. Jens Kjær gets 2 chances shortly after another, but refrains from shooting. The roe was partly covered, and the single wild boar was a sow. In both cases, the proper decision.
Vi sidder her på Berleburg, og jeg har lige skudt min første mouflon. En rigtig fin vædder. Super oplevelse. Stod i et tårn, og de kom lige imod os. Fortsatte op ad en skråning, og så var det sådan set bare at holde lige på den. Så jeg er super glad. Perfekt dag. Vi har set rigtig meget vildt i dag. I morges på det første drev kom der en stor rudel rigtig fine hjorte på cirka 20 styk. Og her i eftermiddag har vi også set en 3-5 rigtig gode hjorte. Vi har set lidt gris, og vi har vel set 25 mouflon og et par 3-4 stykker råvildt, og alt i alt har vi set rigtig meget vildt og haft en super dag. Så en perfekt oplevelse.
With these magnificent scenes, the hunt at Berleburg has come to an end for this time. It has been a number of days with wonderful experiences which the hunters will not forget soon, and the same goes for the scenic ceremonies that surround the hunts here at Berleburg. There are few places where you can be part of such a professional game management, in addition to being able to hunt such a number of different game species. We would like to express our sincere thanks to Berleburg and everyone who has assisted in making this hunt to such a great event. The difficulties of driven hunting does not only consist in the marksmanship, but quite often even more so in choosing the proper animal and await an often brief chance where you can take the shot. A herd of fallow deer is approaching Jens's post, but the animals are very alert and often change their direction, which in conjunction with the trees makes it hard to both choose the proper animal and to shoot. Although the distance is not far, Jens cannot shoot at a fawn without the risk of hitting other animals as well, and accordingly he doesn't shoot. When the herd stops for a moment, Jens tries to use the railings of the high seat as a rest, but both the fawns are covered by the trees. It is quite common for the game to appear shortly after other animals have passed. Here, the fallow deer are almost instantly followed by a sounder of Überläufers. While the first Überläufer drops on the spot, Jens hits the other a bit too far back and therefore continues to shoot in order to put it down as quickly as possible. It later turns out that the Überläufer had dropped dead on the other side of the hill crest. Timing is often difficult during a driven hunt. Jens Kjær lets the Überläufer get closer, but is perhaps waiting to shoot for a little too long. And as he misses it, he does not have sufficient time to shoot at it again. Jens's neighbor, Torbjørn Samuelsson, has a similar problem. Here the wild boars get so close that they spot even his slow movements when shouldering the rifle. The boars lump together, so Torbjørn cannot shoot. When they finally run off, the shot is far more difficult. Torbjørn is first behind, and then unfortunately hits a tree stump.
We've been standing here for a while, and we've seen some animals had some bad luck with the wind, and these freshlings came up, maybe yearlings. So we got one of them, so that's a nice start.
Another problem might be that you have to shoot in a narrow opening between the trees. This obviously makes the shot much more difficult. Unfortunately, Jens's shot was a miss. The angle of the shot is also of great importance. While Jens misses in the narrow angle to the boar while it is coming towards him, he is coping much better when the animal runs past, exposing its broadside, even if the boar runs faster after the first shot. However, for the sake of good order, Jens keeps ready to shoot again if the boar should not be dead. Sometimes a little distance can be of an advantage, although it often looks far greater on film than it really is. The second boar got hit a little too far behind, and Torbjörn quickly dispatches it.
That's life, but we have 2 pigs now.
Torbjörn is using a Merkel Helix rifle in .30-06 caliber. He has mounted the latest Micro H2 from Aimpoint, which has flip-up covers, which protects the lens under the often quite wet conditions during the driven hunt season. Jens Kjær prefers his .300 Winchester Magnum, which has a synthetic stock with an adjustable comb, which makes it easy to make the rifle fit individual measurements. For sights, he uses Aimpoint Micro. Jens also carries 2 or 3 magazines for his rifle, as this is a great advantage during driven hunts. Hereby, the hunter can reload his rifle very quickly and fill up the empty magazine when there is plenty of time. In large hunting areas like this, it is not always possible for all the hunters to hear a horn signal. Accordingly, the organizers often determine a certain time, like 11 o'clock, after which it is no longer allowed to fire any more shots. Only after the designated point of time, the hunter may leave the post and help to gather the game killed. If the animal did not drop on the spot or in a visible place, the hunter must mark the place where it was shot, so that the tracking dog handler knows where to begin the search.
Yeah, it's been a really good place. And we have seen a lot of animals, both red stag, doe deers, and of course a lot of wild boars. Some being too far, some have smelled us because of the wind, but otherwise it's been an exciting morning.
At Magnus Samuelsson's post, it has been a quiet morning, but now his patience is rewarded with the sight of a herd of fallow deer. Unfortunately, the animals come at high speed and are not heading directly towards Magnus. Although the animals are getting closer, the trees are so close together that Magnus cannot shoot. All he can do is keep ready in case the leading doe stops between the trees, and hereby creating a chance of a sporting shot. But unfortunately, the animals keep moving. But shortly later, a better chance appears in shape of 2 Überläufers.
First one for today. I think I gave him a go in the first shot.
On request, Magnus here clearly demonstrates why it is an advantage to bring several cartridge magazines on a driven hunt. Notice how long you are not able to shoot if a head of game suddenly should appear and pass your post. In addition, it is difficult to keep an eye on the surroundings while you refill the magazine and load the rifle again. After such a long period without attention towards the surroundings, you can hardly blame Magnus for checking everything extra thoroughly. It is fortunate that the next head of game doesn't appear before Magnus is ready. He knows that the roe deer will often stop and check the surroundings and hereby offer a much better chance for a good shot. However, it doesn't look like this is going to be a red-letter day for Magnus. Over at Torbjörn's place, there is more action. Fallow bucks are not to be taken, but nevertheless they constitute a bonus on this great hunting day. But shortly after, a sounder of boars appears, and they even come with suitable distance between them, like pearls on a string. Here, Torbjörn takes full advantage of his aim-point sight, as he, with a 180-degree large field of view, can see that more boars are coming behind the one he shoots first, and that enables him to take yet another one before it crosses the forest road.
We've seen animals with a little too far distance, so now came this group, so I shot 2 freshlings, and it went well. So it's just exciting to wait and see what's next.
The next chance is very demanding of the hunter's skills of selective shooting. Torbjörn is only allowed to shoot the fawns of fallow deer, and there is little time to identify the proper animal, estimate its speed for making the proper lead. But Torbjörn did the job very well. The fawn dropped on the spot and is lying dead behind the tree.
We were standing and they came some fallow deers. So I shot a calf when it jumped over the road, and it's lying in the ditch, so everything went fine.
Hvis vi havde siddet dernede, det havde været godt. Hold da fest. Der kommer noget der. En gris. En gris.
Jens knows that now he has to wait for exactly the right moment. Instinctively, Jens reloads and keeps the Überläufer covered in case it dropped due to a shot in the top of the spine. Only when the boar has been lying still for a while can he relax and enjoy the great experience he just had.
Überläufer. Came perfect.
Notice how fast Jens Kjær is ready to shoot again, because he has more than one magazine for his rifle. With a little practice, you can exchange a magazine without taking your eyes off the surroundings, and hereby fully concentrate on the hunt. Jens Kjær is full of confidence after the successful shot, and soon he gets another chance. This sounder contains both Überläufers and a number of Frischlinge. The sow is in front and must obviously not be killed. It is followed by an Überläufer, which Jens will try to take first. Jens misses the rear Frischling, but in the same moment it jumps over some brambles, making Jens believe that it is wounded. Accordingly, he keeps shooting in an attempt to dispatch the animal. Fortunately for the Frischling, Jens doesn't succeed to hit with the following shots. Taught by experience, Jens quickly fills up the rifle with cartridges. This proves to be a wise decision, as the sounder is soon followed by a single Überläufer that comes jumping along. Jens chooses to shoot at the Überläufer while it is still coming towards him. As usual, Jens keeps holding the red dot in his aim-point sight directed at the Überläufer, and as it looks like it is trying to get on his feet again, he quickly dispatches it. It is evident that Jens is attacked by a bout of driven hunt fever, because he is frantically trying to insert a full magazine in his Helix rifle before removing the empty one. However, Jens quickly gets a hold on the situation, and as soon as the rifle is reloaded and the surroundings checked, he can relax and enjoy the spectacular experience he has just had.
One more wild boar. Also Überläufer.
Bagfra. Stå stille. Det er moufloner. Så skal vi holde øje med, om der er nogen, der halter.
During this morning's instruction, the hunters were told that 1 and possibly 2 limping mouflons have been observed. If a chance should arise, the hunters have been told to prioritize removing these animals to put them out of their misery. However, this herd has apparently no damaged animals.
I'm looking at mouflon. Looking after to see if there's anything wrong with one of the legs. I saw one limping.
On most European driven hunts, you must be very observant and keep cool, as many different species can appear by the posts. Here the hunters must expect fox, roe, fallow and red deer, on top of wild boars and even mouflon sheep.
Oh, der kommer et vildsvin. He's just in the end of the drive. And the Kyler came by himself, alone. And I was lucky again. What a drive, this one. You've seen so much game. And mouflon, red deer, fallow deer, roe deer, no fox, and lots of them all. Big stags, fantastic area we are in Germany.
For safety reasons, the rifles are unloaded before you descend from your high seat. But if you afterwards approach a downed Kyler, one should bring a loaded rifle, as there are numerous examples of incidents where hunters have been seriously wounded or even killed by a wounded Kyler, which appeared dead.
Oi! That's a nice German Kyler. He came just by himself in the end of the drive here between the trees. And I could get a good shot in him between the trees. There was an opening. And what a happy ending of this drive, this day, the whole hunting day. Whoa! See how sharp they are. Oh, not nice if the dogs get too close for Kyler and this size. He's very black. Kyler, big body. They are so heavy on the side here because they fight so much in the rut during November. You could also smell him. And we were lucky to get him into 100 meters off the stand, and we got him. It's a very nice Kyler, German Kyler. It was very nice. Yeah. Thank you very much. There was a lot of wild boar. We see a lot of game, red stag, fallow deer, roe deer, and quite a lot of wild boar. And I got 5. Very, yeah, very good drive. Perfect.
This spectacular hunting day is over, and the hunters assist with dragging the game up to a spot where it can easily be picked up. Every time you are carrying or dragging a head of game, your thoughts inevitably goes back to the decisive seconds where the killing shot was made and the animal dropped. In addition, it is nice to move a little after having stood still and concentrated on the surroundings for so long, and all the impressions where the pulse came up and the adrenaline poured into the blood are not soon forgotten. Torbjörn is very happy with this very special day.
Seen a lot of animals. We had many shots around us, and had the luck to shoot both some wild boars and a fallow deer. So it's been a great beat.
However, this driven hunt is not over yet. Next morning, new adventures are awaiting the hunters as they arrive at their spots, not least Torbjörn, who already here gets the first chance. All's well that ends well. The boar is dead. But let us hear how Torbjörn experienced the situation.
That's hunting for you. We've been standing here now for over an hour and nothing has really happened, and all of a sudden a wild boar came straight at us. So I waited until that opening, and the first shot was a little too much to the back, so we have to finish it off with the second round, but it's down, so that's hunting for you. So the driven hunt is, of course, it's a lot of action, and you think it's like opportunity to shoot the whole time, but this is the beauty of it. You can of course have that, and that is fun, but then it can be like quiet for an hour, and then all of a sudden things starts to happen again. So that's the fun part, that you have ups and downs and you have to wait and all the time stay alert.
A while later, Torbjörn gets a new chance for shooting a fallow deer. There is a fawn in the herd, and Torbjörn is awaiting the deer to pass an opening in the trees between the tall beeches. The fawn is hit hard, and Torbjörn wants to finish it off when the herd passes the opening to the right. But unfortunately, the herd changes course and stops where he cannot shoot. The herd then goes back, and the hard-hit fawn manages to follow them a few meters into the trees before dropping dead. As an experienced hunter, Magnus is much focused upon safety and how necessary it is to keep calm and only shoot when there is something solid behind the target, which will catch the bullet. No participants in a hunt should ever risk getting hurt or even feel insecure.
It's hard to tell straight from the front when they just walk out the forest, but the shot was made on, I don't know, touch and go 100 meters maybe. Aimed straight in the front, and that's where it took. 100% happy with that.
A direct frontal shot at an animal is one of the most difficult to make, as the vital parts are not very large from this angle. A great advantage by using an aim point sight is that you can shoot with both eyes open and hereby achieve the largest possible field of view. Magnus' first shot cannot be bettered, but he is a little unfortunate with two of the following ones, as they both hit a tree. When you have been ready for a long while, it is often a good idea to put the rifle down instead of getting your body too tense. It is obviously important to put the rifle in a safe place where you can quickly shoulder it.
On a driven hunt, everything goes so fast and quiet. So I had a fallow deer with a calf coming up from nowhere really, and was lucky enough to get the calf. I had, because of the shooting angles to the next shooter, I have to be a bit
had to take the first shot a bit quicker than I was hoping to, but everything went well. The calf is down and good.
From his career as the world champion strongman, Magnus knows that the greatest art often is to know your limitations. On driven hunts, the distance to the game is normally between 25 and 75 meters, and especially in forested areas, it is far more important to have a large field of view than an optical magnification.
What can we say? We just had, how many was it? 5, 6 valuables walking just by us, but in a direction that we're not allowed to shoot to, at least in Sweden.
Let's see the shot again, in slow motion.
It's amazing how they can be hard to spot. We were looking just that direction 5 seconds ago, didn't see anything. Turn away, turn back again, and that is a wide one. And that's such a benefit to have a 9-point sight on a situation like this. It goes so quick to find the target and just hit it. Hello, little friend. Good. Happy about that. Well, okay.
How are you?
How are you? We 2 wild boars and 1 fallow.
Great. How many came? How many wild boar came?
The problem was we had that one came by itself running here.
Yeah. Okay.
And that came with a group of 4.
4? Okay. You did a great job.
I don't know about that, but they lay here. Yeah, I must say the area we're hunting in is absolutely fantastic. We have so many animals and so many different species and everything. It's really a privilege to be here.
The game is carefully handled, so it, as quickly as possible, can get to the abattoir, where it will be eviscerated before being hung in the cold store. Every leader of the hunts have a team of assistants who are responsible for bringing home the game by the assistance of quad bikes, which have greatly rationalized collecting and transporting the carcasses. In the next drive, Jens Kjær has almost instantly game approaching, but he is not going to have an easy time.
De står inde i det buskage, nu kommer de der.
The many trees are constantly a hindrance to Jens, although he is allowed to make safe shots in all directions.
Den bagerste.
The wild boars aren't exactly cooperative, but lumped together when there finally is a free line of fire. Only when a fallow hind passes on the other side of Jens does he get a sporting chance. Jens took full advantage of the opportunity and made a very good shot that couldn't be bettered. He doesn't exactly look unhappy either.
My first fallow deer in this hunt today.
Like always, Jens quickly exchanges magazines and is soon ready to shoot again. This soon turns out to be a very appropriate habit.
Igen! Der er en mere. Nu kommer han. Løber der.
During most hunts, something unexpected happens, like here. There are many small openings between the trees, so Jens keeps ready if the animal stops.
Minutes of the drive today. What a nice ending of a fantastic hunting day here in Germany. Yes, that was a good day today. Super.
The hunt is over for this time, but Jens can, with pleasure, look back on very good shooting. All that is left is to help dragging the game together after a fantastic drive and a marvelous hunting day with beautiful weather and lots of terrific memories. Days like these are rather addictive, and there is little doubt that Dan, Magnus, Johnny, Torbjörn, and Jens are to be found on more driven hunts in the future,
Yes,
both home and abroad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did a good job.
Yeah. The aim point worked perfectly today. Yeah. Yeah, that was good. 3 shots and 3 animals and foot speed on one of them, so perfect.
Have you seen any wild boar?
We saw one group with many frischling, but we couldn't shoot at them too.
Okay.
They were in the bush over there.
Yeah, and then in this
Yeah, yeah. And then we had many fallow deer going in the forest, not for shooting, and going around the hill there on the top and this way. Many.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, but super. Super drive. Yeah.
Now, Germany, it's called White Man's High.
White Man's Tank.
So, here you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Perfect day.
Yeah, perfect day. Yeah.
We at Hunter's Video are sorry that we now have to say goodbye for this time. We would like to express our sincere thanks to all the participants who have made these fantastic and outstanding days possible and enriched us with unforgettable experiences. We are honored and very grateful for being allowed to participate and hope that we soon shall meet again for new adventures. Actually, we find it difficult to wait until we are back in one of the many beautiful terrains and shall experience the many fascinating aspects of driven hunting, and not least, the sight of the snow-clad landscapes. Until then, we can only wish you happy hunting out there.